From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swalwell to Silverlink. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
I think we could do with a bit of Kim Wilde this morning, Rye. Four-letter word, it's rather apt. I wonder which four-letter word he chose. I don't know. Stevie, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. 2-2 at West Ham. All is good in the world of Newcastle United. Unbeaten going into the international break. Happy days indeed.
Happy days indeed.
I was waiting.
Four brilliant days indeed. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, it's funny that it's called the Stadium of Light because they've got a big switch that they've accidentally forgotten to cover up on the wall because the Borough went in there and we flicked the switch. And we made it out there with 4 goals and a clean sheet and a couple of red cards and a couple
of red cards.
Performance. Okay, 1 red card.
Okay.
And it was a couple of yellows. And a perfect performance from an Australian referee. I don't want to hear any different.
Not going there, not getting involved. Not getting involved in the slightest.
What a game, what a performance, mate. It had everything. I tell you what, for hashtag not a derby, it had all the feelings of a derby, that game. And I was very, very happy with the Borough. And obviously, as you would be, travelling to Stadium Light, tough game. But, look, the first half was a what you expected to, tough teams not really willing to give an inch. Sunderland will say that Borough tried to defend, and I'll say that Sunderland weren't really willing to attack, and it'll just go back and forth for years. But I think at the end of the day, it was 2 teams in good form and just trying to suss each other out. Obviously, it had a little bit of niggle, a little bit of feel to it. Obviously, Sunderland fans will be, arguing that Joshy Coburn or they'll be arguing that he should have, been sent to the bin and stuff like that. But Dan Neil lucky not to be sent off for a red straight away with the studs up tackle, and then obviously getting sent off for dissent just before the stroke of half time. And then obviously Joshy Coburn, obviously fresh out of the UFC, goes in for a bit of a tiff at half time. Does big Joshy the lad trying to take on Dan Ballard. All the feelings, and then obviously Middlesbrough come out second half against 10 men Sunderland, and we just went to town. Did we just go to town? Sam Greenwood, one of their own, can you believe it? One of their own, Sam Greenwood, coming out with the first goal for Borough, and then after that, it was just walk in the park, lads. It was just walk in the park. We had goals for days. Dave and I could have gotten out there and scored, I reckon. It was just that good a run and passing from the Borough. And I tell you what, Carrick's back. Carrick ball's back. It's so back. We could go down to PSG, and I know that Newcastle did them 4. I mean, we'd do them 8 easily. I mean, it'd be that much that we're playing that good of football. But great performance, great weekend. Obviously, not so much for the Mackems, but 100% a derby for me. The feeling in it is unlike any other game we've had this season. Honestly, the fans were up in voice. We saw fights pre-match as well. Breaking out. We saw obviously issues in the stands, and it had everything. So to say it's not a derby, I completely understand. But there was fights, fans fighting before the game, so in the terraces as well. So it had everything.
Let's face it, this is the North East. The North East shouldn't be like that. I mean, look, rivalry's one thing, but we shouldn't have people fighting in the stands. Is this before a ball was kicked?
So this was after the red card, apparently. So there was fights there was fights beforehand as we were leading into the stadium. Big fights out the front of it, and then there was a fight after the red card as well, obviously. So yeah, it had everything this game, honestly, and it was a tough old affair for both teams, but Borough coming out on top, and Mulga are understandably unhappy, but look, I honestly, and I'm trying not to be as biased as I can here. I honestly thought the ref handled it well. And Sunderland will crucify me for that. And you should see my DMs. You should see my DMs. But
is it all your fault for bringing him over?
It's all my fault for it's 100%. It's my fault because he's an Aussie ref, and it was my fault because I said that he's an Aussie ref and that he's the Sunderland never won a game under him. But I tell you what, I thought he officiated it well.
Keith's not here this morning, right? But in our WhatsApp group, he said it was dire refereeing. He said there was no contact in the first yellow card. And he said Neil justifiably approached the ref regarding Coburn diving again. And he says, and Coburn then tried to stick the nut on Ballard. So overall, he wasn't very happy. And he also said that when he was speaking to Newcastle fans, he was speaking to some mates of his. He said Barca and Real is called the El Clasico, but he was told by a Geordie mate that Sunderland versus Middlesbrough is called El Drastico.
I saw that. I saw that. I did have a titter.
Yeah. Look, I watched the game.
Yeah.
I was in London, and I managed to catch the whole game in a well-known boozer. And be honest, lads, I thought it was a pretty good game. I predicted the Borough may nick it. I think on Friday's show. I didn't expect that though. And of course, this is the thing with derby games. They're explosive. You always get some controversy. There's always a red card in the offing, and we got one. The referee, for a Borough fan would obviously have a great game. For a Mackem would obviously have a terrible game. It's hard in the Championship though. These things happen. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. You've just got to get on with it. I thought Sunderland were going to be the better team once that red card was given. I thought they would close up shop. I thought they would go more defensive, and I just thought Borough did their homework. Borough did things right, and hence the result. And Sunderland have got this tendency at times, for a team that can defend well, just collapse like a pack of cards, and that's exactly what they did. And I mean, I don't think 4-0 was a reflection on the game, lads. I think a 2-0 win would have been a fair result, but a win's a win, and these games, like I said last week, form goes out of the window. And last season, I think it was a reverse, wasn't it, at the stadium?
It was correct. Yep. Red card as well.
And that was one of those games where Borough were going into the game as a form team, and unfortunately for them, they came a cropper. So this year, it's a different result, and it's a great one for Middlesbrough going into the international break, and Sunderland go into the international break licking their wounds. Middlesbrough go in, with their tails up, and it makes for an exciting season this season. The two northeast teams going for that, either a playoff place or potentially an automatic promotion place. And Borough are starting to kick on now, aren't they? They're starting to find out. And Carrick,
they certainly are.
Carrick has certainly got, he's moulding his team into something that, was performing well last season, and they just need that luck with injuries and suspensions. That's all they need. But Sunderland have got players coming back. I don't think any Sunderland fan waking up this morning, won't all be doom and gloom. It's history now, that game. You've got to forget about it. You've got to move on. They've got players coming back after the international break, and they've just got to focus on getting back to basics.
Indeed, I think Mogger described it. We'll hear from Mogger a bit later. He described it as, we'll throw that one in the bin and we'll just forget about it and move on, which is probably the best approach. But look, I might be a smoggy, I might be a mad Borough fan, but I am charged with the responsibility of keeping some semblance of balance on this show. So stop it. He says with a smirk on his face. So, look, a couple of things happening. We're going to make one Sunderland fan very happy this morning because we're giving away 100 quid, because we did have the cat girls out before the game around the Stadium of Light, and people were taking the photographs with them and tagging us in on socials, and we did say we'd pull one winner out of a hat and give them 100 quid this morning. So we'll be doing that. We've got Tony Mowbray. I wish we had Tony Mowbray. We've got Jeff Winter, former Premier League referee, coming on later on in the show. He'll give us his views on the refereeing display of Mr. Jared Gillette. There, I was trying to be a bit posh with the pronunciation with Jared and his performance. But also, I think it's only fair we do hear from Ted, because Ted can't join us permanently for a couple of weeks. He cannot. He was with us on Friday. He had a real pop at the Mags and the Smoggies. And he did send us a voicemail over, didn't he? He said, look, lads, I can't be on, but, let me have my say. So, Ted, the floor is yours.
Morning, everybody. Yeah, I guess Rye and the Borough fans will be very happy to get a big win against the biggest club in the division. I suppose the big talk among the Sunderland fans was the referee. For me, no issue with the sending off whatsoever. I know it's a weak reason to be sent off in terms of dissent, but players know the rules now, and a lot of people are unhappy, quite rightly so, with Dan Neil. While others are arguing his dissent shouldn't have warranted a second yellow and therefore a red card. But it did, though, and that's what changed the game, I guess. Referee was an absolute shambles, though. Coburn for Borough committed more dives in 90 minutes than Tom Daly managed in his whole career. Picked up at me a yellow card for trying to stick the nut on Dan Ballard as well. Sam Greenwood also decided to dramatically throw himself to the floor a few times with all the drama of Rita Hayworth. That being said, massive off day for Sunderland. The likes of Jack Clark and Pat Roberts just didn't get the opportunity to perform. I think before the sending off, Borough, they pretty much did a Cardiff. Sunderland fans will know what I mean by that. They pretty much set up not to get beat. But as soon as the sending off obviously happened, that changed the game. And the second half was all them, obviously. International break now. I think that comes at a good time for Sunderland with a massive injury list that we've got. The likes of Ekwa. You've got Mayenda to come into the squad as well. Obviously still missing Pritchard, Dak. Sirkin as well, you can throw into that as well. So there's a lot of the first teamers that are missing from that. International break comes at a great time. Probably not the right time for Middlesbrough, to be honest, after their 4 games on the bounce. But yeah, hopefully that's going to be catastrophic for them, but Sunderland get back to winning ways. Anyway, catch you later, lads. Bye-bye.
Cheers, matey.
Teddy.
I've got to take him to task, actually. Did we come and park the bus? I don't think we did.
I don't, mate.
Those first 15 minutes.
You handle it first, because then I'm ready to go. You just tag me in, mate. Tag team it. We'll tag team it like WWE.
Okay. Those first 15 minutes, Borough had the ball, they had the possession, they were knocking it around well. They were controlling the game. They weren't parking the bus. They weren't sticking 11 behind the ball.
No.
You know, Sunderland came back in after about 20 minutes, but the first 15 minutes were all Borough.
Exactly. I completely and utterly agree. We had all the possession, and to say we went in there to park the bus. Look, I love you, Teddy. You're a good friend, but you're wrong. Okay, Teddy. And I hope that the weather for you and the coffee this morning is beautiful, because you're a good friend, but you're wrong. All right, we didn't park the bus. We came in to have possessive football. That is Carrick ball. We come in and we want to control the game. That's what Carrick has always said he wants to do. All right, look at what Michael Carrick's playing days. That's all he wants to do. He's the holding midfielder that used to pass the ball around. That's exactly what Middlesbrough play like. We go through our centre backs in Dale Fry. We even have an extra centre back in Seni Dieng, and that's what we do. We keep the ball off the opposition and we play down the left wing, especially with Engel, or we flick it out right to Izzy Jones, and that's all Borough did. Now, I get that he's going to, and the ref, look, to say, there's no doubting that Dan Neil's red card in the first half, right, was a major turning point. I completely and utterly agree. But to write Middlesbrough's performance off purely based on the red card is unfair for me, because we saw Tottenham up in the Premier League at the same time win with 10 men. It's Luton Town, but they were down to 10 men and they still were able to get it won. And we've seen plenty of teams go down to 10 men and still be able to change their performance accordingly. So to make, I feel like the performance of Michael Carrick side to make such a result possible was, all credit to them. Now, in the first half, we talk about the referee, we talk about the decisions. Matt Crooks had 2 hands in his back pushed over in the box. Dan Neil's first yellow card was studs up, and we saw just the other week Patrick Bamford, an ex-Borough player, getting slid out tackled by Begovic, the QPR keeper. Begovic was red carded instantly, so he slid out exactly the same. If you have a look and put them next to each other, exactly the same. Begovic slid out at Patrick Bamford, studs up, missed him because Bamford stepped to the side, but Bamford then went down, right? He pretty much rolled out of the way, but then went to ground. Referee comes over, Begovic red card. Dan Neil, exactly the same. Dan Neil comes in, studs up, Josh Coburn goes to the side, and luckily, right, doesn't connect with him, so it's only a yellow. But exactly the same circumstances next to each other. One's a red, one's a yellow. So you tell me what's going on there. So I think Dan Neil's lucky to be on that pitch. Matt Crook should have had a penalty. And I think, look, even if Dan Neil had stayed on, you can't write off the fact that Middlesbrough second halves have always been, more ruthless than the first half. We always have been. We always put the pedal to the metal in the second half. And we just did that. And it was unfortunately for them against 10 men. But they still had the likes of Jack Clark, Patrick Roberts, Dan Ballard, in the back there, Hume, Patterson. They still had, a good quality part of their squad out there. And obviously they were down to 10 men and we made the advantage of that. But I can't write the Burrows win off because the red card, because I feel that just does the team, the club, and Carrick and these coaching a huge disservice.
Steve, did you see the game?
Yeah, I watched it. Like I said before, I watched it in London. Yeah.
Well, I've got some Sunderland fan comments here. I'll dig into them in a sec. But what are your views on it? Was it all about the red card, or?
I just don't think Sunderland turned up, and I think Mugger says that in his interview. I think he was disappointed. In fact, he picked out a couple of players, didn't he? He didn't make excuses. I don't think. I think the red card affected the game, and Sunderland didn't cope with that, and that's the big disappointment for him. I think Middlesbrough coped with it better, and parking the bus, it's hard to say the first 10-15 minutes of a game. I haven't watched Middlesbrough enough yet to be able to say whether that was Carrick ball at its best or not. Derby games though, I like that. That's the problem with derby games. You do try to find your feet, and especially when you're the visiting team. Your first port of call as any visiting team is to try and shut the home crowd up. I mean, the atmosphere at the start of the game was electric. Everybody was up for it, and that's the crowd's job, to try and put off the opposition. But I'd agree with Ride to a sense that Middlesbrough did control the game. They weren't trying to park the bus like Cardiff. They didn't come with a game plan to say, right, well, we're just going to go for a 0-0 here. And but the red card changed the game, and it was a typical Championship derby. That's what it was. There was a bit of controversy, and that's what gets people up and about and out of their seats. And look, Middlesbrough did a professional job. That's probably the best way to describe it. And Sunderland will be licking their wounds still this morning. They'll be disappointed about it, but they'll learn from that. And I think on paper that was a fairly even game. It's what I said on Friday. I did feel that it was going to be tight, but the red card changed that, and it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if it both had 11 men on the pitch. I think it would have been a tighter game, and I think we would have had a 1-0. But look, Borough deserve the plaudits, they deserve the credit, and you move on into the next phase of games with your tails up.
Yeah, well, let's dig into some of the Sunderland fans' view. Anthony Young, lads and lasses, said the red was harsh. My point is simple. It does not excuse the lack of effort in the second half. I'm not here to argue, simply provide an opinion. Anthony Young came back on the back of a couple of comments and said, maybe it was harsh, a card, but it doesn't vindicate the lack of effort. Clark diving into tackles is not the referee's fault. Sealt being on the wrong side of his man is not the referee's fault. Let's accept the defeat and move on. Andy McIntosh, don't blame the ref, Mogger. As bad as the ref was, Dan Neil let his teammates down with the red card, and the rest of the team let themselves down with that performance. At the end of the day, it's 3 points lost. Barry Reid, not a learning curve, Mogger, which is what Mogger said. We were outclassed. I think other teams are sussing out our mode of play. Kevin Wilson, I'm afraid Jack Clark is a brilliant player but falls down too easily. That's why he does not get most free kicks that he plays for. A couple of interesting comments on the ref, just for you, Rai. The ref sent a Wolves player off last season for running at him aggressively. He's a clown, should be clapped in irons and sent back to Oz. Nice. And Dexter Gordon, typical. We get the only Aussie that doesn't like sledging. I like that one.
Okay, that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. I like the second one. Look, there's an awful lot of Sunderland fans out there that are blaming the referee, but and everybody outside of Teesside's going to point the finger at me and say, "Well, you would say that, wouldn't you? You're a Borough fan." But I think it's all too convenient to blame the referee.
There's a whiff of honesty though about the Sunderland fans there. There's a whiff of honesty. They're all saying lack of effort.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, and that's exactly right. Jack Clark diving in on Izzy Jones was horrendous. Izzy Jones just stepped around him and then was able to slide in Matty Crooks. Like, I mean, that's not refereeing. That's, Jack Clark should have done a lot better there. And to be honest, I felt Jack Clark, for all the pundit and plauditory he's had, he didn't look that good. He was off against us. I mean, even in the first half when they had 11 men, they had 11 men up for 45 minutes, a good half of that game. And I still think Jack Clark, obviously he had some chances, but we dealt with him quite well, I thought, and especially with Brad Vandenberg going down in warm-up as well. Brad Vandenberg was going to be our right back, but he hurt himself in the warm-up, and Tommy Smith had to come in late notice. And I thought Tommy Smith played absolutely incredibly against Jack Clark, who is probably one of the best wingers in the championship at the moment, on form and goal-wise. So, to say, then that's the only thing that I ask is that we don't. I get that the red card, right, was a major turning point. I get. But I just still think it would be a disservice to Michael Carrick and his men and the lads to write off the fact that the performance of what that second half was purely down to being them 10 men, because they honestly just absolutely were insanely incredible with the passing, the ruthlessness, the finishing. Izzy Jones played one of the best games I've ever seen Izzy Jones play in a Borough shirt. Senny Dieng is, I'm going to marry Senny Dieng. I swear to God. I'm sorry, Riley. I don't mean to say that on air, but Senny Dieng has become the keeper that we have always wanted. He is signed for 4 years, and although the start of the season he's let in a fair few goals, I feel like Borough fans that were actually watching could probably agree with me that Senny Dieng was probably not really at fault with most of them. It was obviously poor defending, letting the man getting too close to Senny, and there's not much you can do then. And a couple of, obviously that QPR goal as well was an absolute freak of a goal. But Senny Dieng on the weekend, in that first half especially, had some absolutely instrumental saves in that first half to keep us in. Sunderland could have been 1-2 up. There was a moment there where Patrick Roberts ran through our whole squad. Do you remember that, Dave? Where he ran through the whole team and got into the box.
And he had the low shot that Dieng.
And he had the low shot, and Senny Dieng was able to get to it and stop and keep him out. So, you know what I mean? So Middlesbrough, so that's what I'm just saying is that the red card, yes, was a major turning point, but it was a disservice to say that the lads, weren't up for the fight, or weren't there, because it was a capulation that befell Sunderland, and it wasn't. And we go back to January, you know what I mean, when we suffered the double blow at the Stadium of Light, where we got Dale Fry received his marching orders, and then the decision to award Sunderland a penalty for the foul, which would guarantee Borough would be going on a goal behind at the same time as a man. So, it's happened at the Stadium of Light just back in January, and this time it's gone against them. So, and like Steve said, a classic championship match. It's a derby. I'm sorry, it's a derby. There's no other game out there that we've played in the championship that had the players playing like that on the weekend. It was aggressive. It was argumentative. It was pushy. It was shovey. It was the classic derby game for me. And you could tell both teams, and Mogger admitted it at the end, that it was a classic derby game. That both teams were up for a bit more extra fight for that game, and it was clear in the fact.
You don't have the build up to the game like we saw. You don't have the reaction from the fans, as you say. I didn't know, this is news to me, that there was some fighting between the fans.
Yeah.
You don't have that kicking off. You don't have both managers looking at a game and saying, we've got to control tempers, and we're expecting intensity and huge rivalry and pressure, and you don't have everything that we seem to witness enveloping that game without it being a derby. And as much as the Sunderland fans, I think, want to dismiss it as a derby match because they look west along the Felling bypass towards Newcastle as their derby. It was a derby. I'm sorry, it was a derby match. And the fans, as much as the fans say it isn't, the fans were building themselves up on Weir side for a derby. Of course they were.
But who was your man of the match? Who was your man of the match, lads?
So Izzy Jones for me, clear and far, but Senny Dieng has to be equally. It's hard to split those two for me. Izzy Jones was the man of the match on the field. Honestly, I cannot give enough plaudits to Senny Dieng for his first half saves and the way he comes out and plays out from the back as that extra centre back, if you will. So Jones, I would give the trophy to Jones, but Senny Dieng, mate, I owe you a pint and a dinner and a night.
Didn't you propose to him at one point?
I think I proposed to a lot of Middlesbrough players, and it's becoming an issue with my wife, which I'm going to have to apologise for over and over again, because I seem to quickly hand out my hand in marriage to a lot of these Middlesbrough players, and I do apologise. I love my wife.
Any Sunderland players stand out for you?
Yeah, I thought. I honestly thought Ballard was a very good defender. I thought Ballard is actually a very big body boy, and I thought he's actually going. I know that there's been interest from him from the Premier League, and I think he's going to warrant even more. Dan Ballard for me is an up and coming bright, big body centre back, and he's very quick as well. And I thought he was bossing that back line. For me, so I think Dan Ballard is warranting some of the Premier League interest. Jack Clark for me, Patrick Roberts, they didn't really do too much.
They had
and
flashes,
Job as well.
They had flashes.
They did, yeah. No, I didn't see the Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts that everyone's been talking about. I didn't see Job that everyone's been talking about as well. I mean, obviously his brother and all the plauditory there, but I didn't see much from Job. But for me, in Sunderland ranks, it would be Ballard. I would hang my hat on because he looks a right Premier League defender in the making.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think Ballard was probably the better Sunderland performer. You did see from Clark and Patrick Roberts flashes of what they can do, but there wasn't enough there to consider them as Sunderland's best performers. It was more first half and nothing in the second. Even the Sunderland fans are having a pop at Clark about how easily he goes down looking for free kicks. For the Borough, I've got to disagree because I think Izzy was a bit quiet in the first half. I thought he was fantastic in the second half. He was the difference between a 1-0 win and a 4-0 win, absolutely. But I'd say Senny Dieng, just because he was around for the full 90 minutes, he didn't go missing at all, and when called upon, he made big saves before we started scoring goals. So I'd just reverse those two. But there you go. Opinions.
Are you chasing? Are you just chasing the playoffs now, lads? Because Ipswich beat Preston 4-2, Leicester beat Stoke 2-0, and looking at that top of the table now, Leicester's on 30 points and Ipswich is on 28. I mean, they've got a 10-point lead now on Preston, level on games. Ipswich have got an 8-point lead, level on games. Sunderland in fourth place at the moment on 19 points. So it just looks like they're playing catch up with the playoff places now for everybody else.
It's exactly the same as last season, isn't it? And shout out to the 12th Man podcast and Dicko especially on that, because he said at the start of the season is that, when we drop points early in the season, it allows that to happen. And that's what a slow start to the season can do for a team like Middlesbrough, who have literally on form at the moment. And I would argue that the way we play at the moment would rival most of those teams. But unfortunately, now we've let two of the more informed, better teams in Ipswich and Leicester now get that run of points. They're gone. There's no way we can catch them now. And if Middlesbrough still continue this run now, much like we did last season with Coventry at the same time, we could never catch Sheffield United and Burnley. And it'll be the same as again now. It'll be Ipswich and Leicester now that have got the gap. If Middlesbrough continue, Coventry come with us as well because they've hit a bit of form now as well. If we now, do this surge again, it's exactly the same as last season, and we'll get to the point where we can't catch Ipswich, we can't catch Burnley. We might, if we end up beating, I swear to God, Ipswich in January 4-1 or something like that, and they're still like 8 points ahead of us, it's going to be exactly the same as last season. I'm going to eat my own hat because it's like I keep saying, it's exactly the same as last season. If those two teams have pulled away, Leicester are going to walk this league. They are absolutely incredible with Jamie Vardy, Iheanacho, and some of their midfielders. Is it Shrewsbury Hall? I think for Leicester, he is incredible. Shrewsbury Hall is incredible for them, and obviously Leicester are just incredible coming up from League One and continuing their domination. I mean, they've got two midfielders, ex-Borough men as well, Dave. Can you believe it? Massalongo, the Aussie, and Sam Morsey are just bossing that midfield. And they are playing absolutely incredible football under McKenna, who's a ex-Man United coach as well. So good friend with Michael Carrick. So, but they're gone. You're absolutely right, Steve. They're gone. There's no way we can catch them. So we have to just continue now our run of results. Hope that results go against the other teams. We had a massive win on the weekend, but we didn't move. We stayed 16th, and that's what a slow start to the season can do to you. Because now we're not only we obviously need to focus on our backyard, just keep winning games, keep putting the points on the board. But unfortunately, the slow start to the season is always now going to be one we can probably look back on and go, has that cost us? And at the moment, it has.
Okay.
Plenty more to come. We're going to do the headlines from all three clubs as well. From a Sunderland perspective, love to get your thoughts, Sunderland fans who are listening this morning on the CAT 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. Yeah, you got Smoggies saying the ref had an okay game. We've got a lot of Mackems across the region wanting to string him up this morning. We'll have the views of former Premier League referee Jeff Winter, who's going to join us in the second hour of the North East Footy Breakfast Show. All of that and much more to come after this.
Was turned down by two other solicitors before Ather & Co took on her case.
My husband was at work, tripped over, fractured his knee. He developed pulmonary embolism and died. That left me a widow with 3 young daughters. Devastating. Charles Ather took my husband's work to court, got them to admit liability. They were very diligent, very caring.
Choose the one you know, Ather & Co.
So glad that I went to Ather's.
Now then, do you do sales? Do you fancy a great career challenge? Well, the Red, the Cat and the Toon has a full-time vacancy for a special sales exec. Not only will you be responsible for generating the vital revenue needed to see the North East's newest radio business grow, but you'll grow too. Show us you can do the business and you'll soon become Group Sales Director. Our stations are flying. We have the 3 legends back on air. Then there's the one that most are talking about, the North East Footy Brekkie Show. And there's more to come. Gumption and creativity count more to us than years. You may only have 2 or 3 years selling experience, but if you get what we're trying to achieve, you will be the right fit. You'll ideally be located in Tyneside or Wearside. This will be a hybrid working role. It's a full-time basic plus commission position. So come on, think you have what it takes? Then give us a shout. Email any of the 3 stations. That's hello@thetoonuk.com, hello@thecatuk.com, or hello@thereduk.com.
Clark.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Williams.
A first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester. It was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing up.
Across the North East, it's the 3 legends.
Fridays at 6 on the Cat, the Red and the Toon.
Steve and Rye. The North East Footy Breakfast.
The Cat, the Toon and the Red.
We're back. It is the North East Footy Breakfast, Dave, with Steve and Rye, and Ted's not with us this morning. It would have been good to have Ted on the show, I'm sure. We've had him on the show.
4 reasons he can't make it. There's 4 reasons Ted can't make it this morning, isn't there? Really?
Ted will be with us shortly, Sunderland fans. Don't you worry. He had a good sledging on Friday, a good sledging performance, to use an Aussie expression, and he even sledged the Aussie, which is quite good. I mean, that's unheard of.
He's red hot. He's red hot in the WhatsApp group as well now, isn't he? I love it.
Fellas, high time we caught up with what's going on around the 3 big clubs. Who's starting? Who is it?
Newcastle.
All right, we'll do that first. Go on, Benny.
So, Newcastle United earned a valuable point in their quest for a Champions League place yesterday with a 2-2 draw at West Ham. Sukic gave the home side the lead at the interval, but 2 goals from Alexander Isak saw the Magpies take the lead just over the hour mark. Isak should have completed his hat-trick and sealed all 3 points when he rounded Hammers keeper Areola, but his shot hit the post and West Ham made the visitors pay, with Kudus grabbing an equaliser and a point for David Moyes' team. Ahead of the match, Newcastle United had confirmed on Saturday that Bruno Guimaraes had signed a new extended and improved contract to remain at St James's Park until 2028. The 25-year-old Brazilian agreed a 4.5-year deal when arriving from Lyon in early 2022 and has now put pen to paper on a new 5-year contract. Elsewhere, there was 2 late goals that denied Newcastle's under-21s their first win in the Premier League Cup this season on Saturday. Ben Dawson's side were leading Fleetwood Town 2-0 with goals from Crossley and Parkinson, but Teal and Williams grabbed the goals for the visitors in the last 10 minutes to steal a point. Defender Emil Kraft played the second half of the game, and it was the second game of his comeback following his injury at Whitley Park. Following last weekend's 5-1 reverse at Manchester United, Newcastle United's under-18 suffered a further bout of travel sickness away to Stoke on Saturday, losing 4-1, with Sean Neave getting the consolation. That was his 6th goal of the season. And Newcastle United women ran out 4-0 winners at Liverpool Feds with goals from Elson Kelly and a brace from Galloway. That's Newcastle United's headlines this morning.
Okay, let's do a bit of Sunderland. I mean, Borough have taken centre stage, haven't they, so far this morning, so 'tis only fair. As we've been hearing, not a great weekend for the Black Cats, beaten at home 4-0 by North East rivals Borough, having Dan Neil sent off, and now reports Premier League Brentford are weighing up a £15 million bid for Jack Clark. Clark's been in fine form so far this season, scoring 7 goals, and despite not getting a top-flight move to Burnley, he's really got his head down and just shown what he can do. Sunderland women continued their unbeaten start of the season with a hard-fought point over Birmingham City women at St Andrews. Mary McAteer was again on the scoring sheet, opening the goal scoring for the Lasses in the 17th minute, only to see Birmingham's Christy Harrison Murray equalising with quarter of an hour to go. And former Sunderland chairman Bob Murray will be meeting supporters at the Stadium of Light next week. So Bob will be carrying out a book signing session of his brand new autobiography. We've mentioned it on the show already, haven't we? We've discussed it. I Do It All Again, it's called. The former Sunderland AFC chairman will be at the club store from 12 noon on Friday, the 13th of October. That's this coming Friday. All proceeds from the book sales and associated donations will go to the Foundation of Light, which is Sunderland's official charity.
Well, good morning, Borough fans. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Borough fans. Good morning, everyone. I have got your news headlines, and sit back because it's going to be glorious. Middlesbrough will look to this international break unlike the previous, as their amazing run of form has to halt now for a 2-week break as Carracker's turn the Borough around in fine fashion. There can be no doubt on the weekend after Middlesbrough's excellent 4-0 victory over Sunderland that Dan Neil's red card in the first half stoppage time was a major turning point. But Borough made their man advantage count in devastating fashion, and the second half as Sam Greenwood, Matt Crooks, Isaiah Jones and Marcus Force all bagged the goals that saw Borough to their biggest ever away win at Sunderland. It was a fantastic way to continue our winning form. To dismiss Borough's win as solely because of the dismissal would do them a massive disservice. So, as I've already said earlier in the show, the performance of Michael Carrick's side to make such a result possible, the man advantage helped. There's no doubt of that, but it's never a guarantee, as Tottenham showed the exact same thing at the same time to move top of the Premier League. To that point, Borough deserves so much credit for how ruthless and clinical they were in putting the pedal to the metal from the restart and quickly finishing the home side off. Having established second half early dominance, it was none other than boyhood Sunderland fan Greenwood, isn't that going to sting, who provided the Borough's opener. And Michael Carrick is delighted also to see Izzy Jones enjoying his football again in a good place off the pitch. Is saying it makes Middlesbrough a lot stronger when Jones is in form. Jones provided a man-of-the-match display for Borough at Sunderland on Saturday, and they thrashed their rivals and can now unbeaten in 6. The victory was the 4th consecutive one of Borough's championship revival. Jones' struggles off the pitch were now also well documented, and that impacted his performances on the pitch last season. He struggled to find the same kind of form, making him such an exciting star, but it looks like he's put that all behind him, and good on you, Izzy, to return to form. Middlesbrough's amazing weekend was also wrapped up last night as the Borough girls won 4-1 over the Doncaster Bells, with Jessica Met scoring an absolute howler. Absolutely incredible goal did Jessica Met. Good on you, girls. And finally, on the injury front, Middlesbrough were without Riley McGree, who had a foot injury. Unfortunately, he missed the derby match. Riley said he'll be trying to do his best to get back as soon as possible, with Australia facing England during the break, one that Riley has said he does not want to miss. So injury front there, Riley McGree, bit of a worry, but I have it on good authority that he's trying his best to get back in time for Australia v England, lads.
A plantar fasciitis injury.
Yeah, so not going to reveal, but I had a chat to him. I kind of knew going in as well that he was out. We'd spoken after last week, and knew that he was suffering, and but he's doing his best. That's all we said, and he's doing his best to get back in time. Especially, he's keen to be out there for the Socceroos v England. That's a massive fixture. I know that it's only a friendly, and it's only, it's a nothing game, I guess, for England, and you guys won't be seeing it as anything as much. But for Australia to play England in England, that's always, one of those ones that Australia will look to no matter what sport. So Riley will be desperate to get out there and Whether he can pull up in time or not, we'll see. It'll be up to Graham Arnold now and the Socceroos to assess the injury and see if they can play. But obviously Middlesbrough still with a couple more players that could represent Australia in Sammy Silvera and Tom Glover against England come Friday. So, yeah, unfortunately, Riley has suffered the injury. But I tell you what, impressive to see Middlesbrough be still so rampant without their star midfielder. Coming away 4-0 without Riley, you wouldn't have believed it. And a lot of, if you have a look at the social medias and the pre-match predictions as well, there was a lot of heartache and a lot of scared Borough fans without Riley McGree. But Borough made sure that their squad depth was ever so great.
Tell you what, I'll come clean now. I honestly went into that game fearing we'd lose. I did. I couldn't bring myself to admit that on air, whether it was on this show or on the Legends on Friday night, but just couldn't bring myself to admit that. But I had that horrible fear because I saw what happened last year, and I wasn't quite sure that Borough were as strong as they could be so far this season. I thought, I just thought it was a big banana skin to slip on, but there you go, they didn't. Congratulations, well done the lads, and commiserations to Sunderland, but they're still sitting there in 4th spot, so not too much damage done. Right, let's turn our attention then, because we've been talking Borough Sunderland for a while and we will come bagot onto it, but obviously Newcastle down at West Ham. I did go for a 1-1 draw, Steve. I didn't think Newcastle could win it. So hey, I got the outcome right, just didn't get the scoreline right. What are your thoughts on the performance?
Well, it was a frustrating game in some ways, and Eddie Howe said that in his interview after the game. It was always that potential of it being after the Lord Mayor's show, the 4-1 win against PSG in the Champions League. But I thought it was a really good response in the second half. And, in our WhatsApp group, when we're going backwards and forwards, we were 1-0 down at half time. I fancied Newcastle to come back and win the game 2-1. I had a feeling Callum Wilson was going to play some part. He was going to come on and potentially change the game. To be fair to Rai, he fancied Isak. He was watching the game. He fancied Isak to do something in the second half. He just didn't really have the rub of the green in the first. And he was right. And Isak was unplayable in the second half. He showed why we spent all that money for him. He's a combination, really, I guess, of, I don't know, he's a bit like Thierry Henry. He's got that kind of way of running and taking on defences and putting defences on the back foot and jinxing past people, and he can finish. The kid can finish. And we really did well in the second half. We showed good character. And we took control of the game. I don't think West Ham fans could disagree. As always, I did Saga's show on Talk TV last night with a West Ham fan, and he was moaning and groaning about the referee, saying that Peter Banks did us all a favour. He had a Newcastle top on under his referee's top, etc. But I didn't think it was that kind of game. I just felt ultimately that it was a game of two halves, and West Ham aren't mugs. That they're a good team. They won a trophy last season, and David Moyes has got them playing well. So for West Ham to take the lead, it wasn't a surprise, and ultimately the second half was just a test of character. It was a show of character, and those two goals put them on the back foot. People, West Ham fans complaining, about the first goal. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, and like I've said all along, things balance themselves out over the course of a season. It's not ideal, but we've gone through VAR. We're blue in the face on this show, and VAR is useless at the moment. They should just stop it. Retrain people and move on. It's pointless complaining after the event. From our perspective, it was a point earned. It wasn't 2 points dropped. I think performance wise, once there was a tactical switch in the second half, he changed Tonali and Longstaff around. I think Longstaff changed the game. I think he's direct running, and he's the distance that he covers in the game are well known. Well, he put in a wonderful effort. Tonali played better in the second half and as well. But there was a frustration in the away end. People were getting a little bit frustrated, with the way things were going in the first half. But the second half, it was just, we were different gravy. That's the way to describe us. And Bruno again, I think probably West Ham fans pointing to the incident in the first half. He picked up an early booking. He kicked out at MA. he avoided a second yellow for what was probably a worse foul on James Ward-Prowse. So Bruno could probably count himself lucky that he didn't go off, because in another game he probably could have been sent off. But that again, West Ham fans, moaning and groaning about that. But these things happen in football. The draw keeps Newcastle 8th, 1 point behind West Ham. We're 3 off the top 5. Because obviously Aston Villa and Liverpool drew their Sunday games as well. So for me, if you told me going into the second international break, that would be where we were in the league, and we would be topping the group of death in the in the Champions League, I would have said thank you very much, because this season is going to be more difficult. We've said it's going to be more difficult, with Newcastle having to rotate their squad and Newcastle having to cope with European football for the first time in a long time. Great away support again yesterday. Newcastle United and Middlesbrough and Sunderland, as we know, travelling thousands. And the away end was bouncing, and a slightly earlier kick-off, 2 o'clock, but not so bad for Newcastle fans wanting to travel down by train. No rail strikes, of course, so a good atmosphere, and we actually found the sun. There was actually some sun in in old London town. Newcastle.
It's a hot day.
Newcastle in the northeast, 14, 15 degrees yesterday, but London was 24. So it's like a mini summer going on. But for me, I just thought overall, we looked a bit leggy. We were struggling a bit. Obviously, Wilson only came on in the dying embers of the game, and didn't have time to do what he normally does, which is score against West Ham. The international break has come at a good time for us. I again credit to Lascelles. He's come in, he's done a job, but nothing beats Sven Botman. I'm hoping that he's going to be okay at the end of the international break, and from our perspective, we've just got to hope that the others on the injury list come back in in time for the next set of fixtures. We know Harvey Barnes is going to be out until the start of the new year, but we're coming at the end of October by the time the next set of fixtures kick in. Joe Willock is going to be back in training. Now that's a massive plus. That's like signing a new player for us. He hasn't been available all season. Anthony Gordon's suspension is now done and dusted, so he's 5 yellow cards away from his next one. So it means we've at least got 5 games with Anthony Gordon available for selection. But it's again, another standout player yesterday was Trippier. Again, another assist for Trippier. Those who've got him in the fantasy league will be delighted with his performances in the last few weeks. I guess one of the players that came under criticism was Pope. A lot of people saying that he should have done better with the first goal that West Ham scored. But for every mistake a goalkeeper makes, they make 2 or 3 good saves that don't get noticed. And in the last few moments of the game, West Ham could have nicked that. They could have nicked it. And a great save by Nick Pope in the dying seconds of the game, won Newcastle United the point. And it was Bowen. He looked a certain scorer, to be honest. Pope pulled off a great save. But there was still people on social media last night, with that old stuff. Nick Pope's the only Pope that can't stand crosses. Blah blah blah. Yeah. At the end of the day, Nick Pope pulled off a worldie last night again, and I was delighted with it. When you look at some of the other goalkeepers in the Premier League, watching Manchester United this weekend and the money they've spent on that guy, is it Nana? He is a Nana. Absolutely useless that keeper. And Arsenal, they got the win over Man City, but I just don't know. I don't know what to see in that goalkeeper. I really don't. So look, we haven't got a problem with Nick Pope. He should be England's number 1. Maybe he will be when we get another manager as international coach. But all in all, it wasn't a bad weekend for Newcastle, and keeps that unbeaten run going, lads.
Well, you mentioned Eddie Howe a couple of times there. Let's just have a quick snippet from Howe, from courtesy of Sky Sports. This is what he had to say immediately after the game.
Much happier with the second half showing. I thought we were very, very good in that second period, much more like ourselves. The first half was frustrating for us. We maybe had a hangover from the midweek, but a good experience for us. I hope we will learn from it, and as I say, much more positive feeling in the second half.
Go on, Rai.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting as well. I did watch the game, obviously, and it was a good watch. I thought West Ham's obviously a tough place to go. I completely and utterly agree that Bruno was very lucky not to have a second yellow. I don't know what the ref was thinking, whether it was, it was within a second, if not that, of his first yellow, where he was just feeling a bit sorry for him, or just trying to get him to calm down. But you could see Bruno then really pulled back out of some of the challenges and stuff like that to sort of keep himself on the pitch. But he was very, very lucky to stay on that pitch, was Bruno. I thought Isak was the difference, honestly, in the first half. Whenever he was on the ball, he was so silky with it. He was moving the ball with ease through the West Ham defence. And he was just absolutely, he just looked effortlessly. And then obviously in the second half, he proved to be the big difference as well. Kieran Trippier, obviously one of the best right backs we've seen, and able to provide the assists. But I agree, they looked leggy. They just looked tired. I said it in the WhatsApp group, and as rightly so. And this is where the fixtures start coming in thick and thin, especially for Newcastle when you're in three competitions, being the Carabao, Champions League, and the Premier League. But to still come away with a point when in the tough trip down to West Ham is shows the signs of a good squad depth, and to be able to have Callum Wilson come off the bench, Isak in fine form, still without Gordon. I think Gordon's a massive miss for Newcastle. You could see it on the weekend. I didn't realise how instrumental Gordon is to their attacking play. Bruno and obviously Tonali in that centre. I thought Tonali did all right as well. Yeah, no Joe Linton as well. I thought Tonali played pretty well. I think he's still adjusting to the Premier League lifestyle, but I thought he controlled the game well, and he obviously played the full 90 as well. So good to get some more minutes under Tonali as well in the Premier League. So yeah, look, a good performance all round. I think West Ham again would feel hard done by the Bruno yellow, but yeah, look, every weekend now is just dominated by these refereeing decisions. The PGMOL has to come in and step in. Honestly, the referee, the decision, each game is marred by a decision at the moment, and it's just terrible. There's just so many questions left from each game. We saw it in the Middlesbrough game, we saw it in the Newcastle game, we saw it in the Man City Arsenal game, we saw it everywhere you look. There was some sort of decision that didn't go. Was a weird sort of call, I guess you could say, and it was just it's just sad to see that the referees just seem to keep copping the slack for it, because it just keeps coming up, and it keeps questioning whether the result would have gone somewhere different. So I hope we can get on top of it, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Well, we can talk, and we will talk refereeing later on in the show, because Jeff Winter's joining us, the former Premier League referee. Be good to get his views on the quality of refereeing at the moment. He's been there, he's done it. He's fallen out with Sir Alex Ferguson and with decisions made at Old Trafford and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it'd be good to get his views on that, on VAR, on the Borough-Sunderland situation yesterday with our Aussie friend who was in the middle. So there's all that to come. We're going to make a Sunderland fan very happy as well. I know it'll be dark clouds on Weir side this morning after what happened at the weekend, but we're going to give 100 quid to one of them who met up with our cat girls who were out and about and took a selfie and tagged us in on that on social media. So there's all that to come. But Steve, we all know the Carrier Bag Cup is the most important competition that Newcastle are competing in this season. But looking at the Premier League, 8th going into the second international break, not the best of starts. What are we, quarter of the way through the season? What's your summary so far?
Yeah, I'm happy. I really am, because ultimately it's going to be tougher, and Newcastle are playing in the elite European competition now. So for me, it's very mean a case of finding their feet to see whether they could squad rotate. I think what's impressed me is the squad depth. Rye touched on it just 2 minutes ago there when he said that they have got depth, and the fact that we didn't have Anthony Gordon, we didn't have Joe Linton, we haven't got Harvey Barnes, but players who are coming in are doing a job. No Sven Botman. Lascelles comes in 3 key games, Man City, PSG and West Ham away, and we haven't lost any of those games. And I think that the squad depth is better than we thought it was. We were a lot of people talking on social media and in pubs, etc., pre-match about the transfer window, because Newcastle already been linked with a lot of big names, and ahead of the January transfer window, and people now are saying maybe we don't need a centre half. About 4 weeks ago, we were all saying, Sven Botman gets injured, we're going to struggle. But people are now saying maybe we could invest in a centre forward, maybe we could bring in another goal scorer, somebody who can give a bit of support to Isak and Wilson. So yeah, already squad depth is something that we're all happy about. But look, we're still in the Carabao Cup. Obviously that doesn't come into play now at the end of the month. 1st of November, Newcastle play Manchester United away. Happy with that. I still think Eddie Howe would love to win that trophy, especially after going all the way at the final last year. Doing well in the Champions League, top of that group at the moment. Long way to go, a lot of football to be played. Can't get complacent in that. And the Premier League is still our bread and butter, and sitting just outside those European places, but within touching distance of the Champions League spot again. It's great, and you don't want to peak early. You don't want to be the team that's leading and then fall away at the end. You'd far rather be in that chasing pack. And what I really liked was there was a tweet put out yesterday by a national newspaper. And it was just a little summary of all the teams. Which team is going to win the league? And there was Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea,
Spurs.
Imagine
they've won 2 now. They're getting a nosebleed.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. No Newcastle United, and that suits us down to the ground because ultimately all of those old big six were in there, not Newcastle United. And if that's the way that some people want to play it, let them crack on, because they'll have a surprise. And you look at Villa. They've got a European campaign. They're still in there. They're still in there at the moment. West Ham have got a European campaign. They're still in at the moment. The big six is it's gone. It has gone. It's no more. And for me, there's 9 teams now, and that's what you want. You want a competitive division. You don't want a Scottish Premier League where it's only Celtic and Rangers, and on the odd season Aberdeen challenging. You want a competitive league, and if you've got 8 or 9 teams that potentially could all beat each other in that top half, and they're all challenging for Europe, it makes for an exciting season. The Premier League's becoming better, not worse.
I can't disagree. I'm a big supporter of North East football. I'm a Mad Borough fan, of course, but I'm a big supporter of North East football. But just looking at the Premier League table this morning, with Tottenham on top and Arsenal in second spot, it's actually quite refreshing that it isn't a Man City, it isn't a Liverpool, it isn't a Man United, it isn't a Chelsea. It is quite refreshing. Mind you, I'll change my mind within about 12 hours because obviously I'll want. Can I say this? I'll be hung drawn and quartered on Teesside. I'm just looking to see if there's anybody out the window. It would be good to see Newcastle up there in the mix. It would.
It just changes it up for me as well. That's the best thing about it, is it changes it up. You don't want to see, the Formula One at the moment is in dire straits because everything that is touched is Verstappen. You know what I mean? And nobody watches the Formula One anymore because Verstappen keeps winning it. And it'd be the same with the Premier League. If we kept seeing the Man Cities and the likes just constantly up there, then we would, it would start getting questions, and then that whole Super League question keeps coming into debate. Well, should we take the top teams out of England and make a Super League so where the top teams can just verse each other? But when you start seeing teams like we see Man City now with a couple of losses on the bounce, that's what you want to see. You want to see any team on their day being able to be beat. You don't want to see domination, whether it's through money, whether it's through whatever it may be. And when you see a Premier League game where you can see results in the weekend that shock you, that cause questions, that divide opinions, that's what you want. That's what you want from your biggest league. And when every team's firing, that's what you want for a competitive league, because you don't want one team just going out and winning it all. Obviously, we saw that last season with Man City, but it's refreshing now to see a Tottenham. It was refreshing to see a Newcastle, especially from the Northeast, doing well in the Champions League, beating a PSG. Like nights like that for English football are ones that we remember. You know what I mean? And I've sit here and I wanted to talk about it maybe during the week, but I've been watching the Beckham documentary. I'm a big fan of David Beckham. I've been told that I look like him, but please just hold your questions till the end. I've been watching that, and obviously, the state of English football and the passion that the English have for their league, and that we need the Premier League to be competitive, buying the league and buying all these players and all that, and walking the league is not what we want to see.
Yeah, cool. Fellas, we're late for the news. Oh, shock, horror. Since when has that ever been an issue? Yeah, indeed. Coming up in the next hour, you're going to do a bit of a reset. We'll have a listen to Tony Mowbray. We'll have a listen to Michael Carrick. We'll chew the cud over what's been happening over the weekend for the North East. But there's lots more to come as well. The boys have been busy trawling the depths of football stories for us to chew the cud over, and we'll do that after the news, which comes up across the North East after this. Have you fancied rubbing shoulders with the legends? Well, we're on the lookout for the right person to produce the three legends. This may be a voluntary position, but you'll take on the responsibility of leading the most high-profile football show in the North East.
Unbelievable when he come on. His pace and his finishing was different class.
How many times did you swap your top, Clarky? Actually, I was sitting in 36 degrees, Dan, so I didn't have a top on.
You'll work closely with Lee Clark, Craig Hignett and Darren Williams each week to produce a great show. If you are that person, then tell us. Reach out and get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Email any of the three stations. That's hello@thetoonuk.com, hello@thecatuk.com, or hello@thereduk.com. Clark.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Hignett. Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Williams.
My first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester. It was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with as well. I thought it was just for standing up.
Across the North East, it's the three legends.
Fridays at 6 on the Cat, the Reds and the Toon.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink, Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Reds, the Toon and the Cat.
Dermot Kennedy and Giants across the North East on the Cat, the Red and the Toon. It is the North East Footy Breakfast. We've got Rye with us. We've got Steve with us. We've had Ted. Well, we should give Ted another airing, shouldn't we? Because we gave his views a little bit earlier. So Ted sent it through because he doesn't join us permanently until the end of the month. So there is Sunderland representation on this very show.
There is. It's coming very, very soon. But he's got 4 reasons to stay away this morning, doesn't he, old Ted? Because Middlesbrough coming up absolutely red hot. And getting the job done 4-0 against the Mackems on the weekend. What a result. What a way to go into the international break for Carrick and his men, because we are absolutely firing at the moment, and I have not seen us play this good since start maybe middle of last season. And to do it with now, Dave, and that's one thing that I wanted to touch on that I didn't really touch on earlier in the show, was that it's just so good to see the Borough lads doing this type of performances with not many loan stars. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are all our players now. These are all players that are there for the future. You know, they're not here on on a 12-month contract. They're all here for 4 to 5 years. We signed the Latte Lass, the Engels, Dan Balassa and the likes. All these players we saw on the weekend, they're all our players, and they're all here to stay. And that really excites me as a Borough fan. So much so because last season It was great, don't get me wrong, but the journey was always marred by the fact that we were always worried about when these players would leave, what would happen. And now we can sort of, ease our fears a little bit because, it's our squad, it's our team. We saw squad depth come in with Riley McGree out, and we've already seen a few injuries come in, but Borough seem to be answering all the questions there already. And I'm just so happy at the moment for the Borough and the way we're playing and under Carrick, and just so excited for international break comes at a bad time. The first one came at a good time. This one comes at a bad time.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and that was one of my concerns. You rip 45 million quid's worth of strike force out of your team. Where the hell's the goals going to come from? And we started the season with concerns. It wasn't a great start of the season, arguably as bad as the start of last season under a different manager, of course. And what we've been praising Sunderland for, as much as we can through gritted teeth, being Borough fans and a Newcastle fan, thankfully Ted's going to come and join us and give us some balance from a Sunderland perspective. But what we've been praising Sunderland for is where they're getting the goals from. because they lost Ross Stewart. Yes, he was injured, but they've been able to spread the goals out. But hang on, Borough stuck 4 past Sunderland, 2 past Cardiff, 3 past Watford, 2 past Bradford, 2 past Southampton. The goals are starting to come for the Borough now, and that was my concern. Where the hell are we going to score from? And they're now coming.
Yep, no, I completely agree, and it's great just to see the lads being able to fire. And we looked in the transfer window, didn't we, for that striker? Who's going to lead the line for the Borough? And it's it's great. It was in our backyard. It's Joshie Coburn, and who's going to be that new right winger? Again, he's in our backyard. He's one of our own academy, Izzy Jones. And it's great to see Dale Fry as well. He captained the squad. He's one of our own. All these players coming through the academy. So Middlesbrough Academy still firing, still providing this squad with so much depth. And it just goes to show you that we don't need to be dipping into and spending millions in the transfer window when we've got some of these kids like Hayden Hackney, like Izzy Jones, like Dale Fry, waiting in the wings. Is there the Jack Hannahs? Is there some of these youngsters? We saw Cal Kavanagh getting the Premier League 2 month player of the month. So we've got some depth there with some youngsters, and if that's what we can build on, then my goodness, have we got an exciting future.
Well, I'll tell you what to do. Let's reset a bit. Let's go back. We'll have a listen to the 2 managers. Of course, it was a weekend where Newcastle got a point at West Ham. We will come on to that as well, Magpie fans. Steve's with us. I think he's taking a bit of a backseat this morning. Sorry, Steve.
No, I can actually listen. When you win a derby game, it's going to take preference, isn't it? And at the end of the day, Borough smashed the Mackems, so it's one of them, isn't it? You've got to sit back and allow Rye to wax lyrical.
That little phrase there seemed to trip off the tongue very easily, Steve. Did I
smash the Mackems?
Yeah. I detected it slipped out fairly straightforwardly, but there you go. All right, let's have a listen. I mean, Mogger obviously is going to be disappointed. His focus is going to be on the refereeing decision that saw Sunderland go down to 10 men just before half time. Carrick obviously just delighted with the Borough. Here they are.
Well, obviously it's frustrating. I mean, I sat in the managers' meeting before with the referee who talked about empathy to the team. He's going to empathetically manage this game. My own view is he probably came in with a plan to let it go, because in my opinion there was a potential few bookings very early on from dragbacks, pullbacks, pulling shirts while teams are breaking away. Let it go, didn't talk to them, and then 44 minutes to without even pulling him in, giving him a chat, telling him to calm down, he produces a red card in a game that I thought was a really good game for staff. I think two teams going at it really. They're a good side. We know they're a good side. They're confident at the moment, but I think we probably had the better opportunities for staff. I think, disappointing because I felt it spoilt the game. But from a Middlesbrough point of view, they'll be happy, of course. But I think it was a game that we weren't dominating because they're a good team with the ball, but we created good chances, and we probably just got it a little bit wrong second half, playing with 10 men against a team who's a good football team. I think it's a learning curve for a very young side, but I've just said we'll put that game in the bin and move on to the next one, and after the next international break.
Yeah, I'm delighted. It's we spoke about it at half time. It's a whole new game of football. It's kind of irrelevant what had happened in the first half. It's more mentality thing, to be honest, of how you go into it. Do you kind of think we've got a man extra and it'll be easier, or do you kind of have the other mentality of we have to chase the game and go after it, and as if we were a man less? And I thought the boys took that on fantastically well, and obviously the scoreline is what it is, but I thought we went about it in the right way and got all we deserved second half. It can be a tough place to be against 10 men, especially when they're at home in a game like this, when there's so much to play for and so much kind of passion and energy around the place, and so we were well aware of that. It didn't necessarily mean the game was going to be easier, but I thought we went about it in a great way. I thought the intensity was there, positive play, off the ball we were at it and kept kind of recycling and attacking again, and delighted with the goals, obviously. It's fantastic, and the clean sheet. Senny had to make a big save for us at 0-0. That was a bit of a turning point in the game, actually. I thought Josh was fouled on the halfway line. I think it was Bellingham, or we felt there was a foul anyway, and then Roberts went up the other end and straight away, and then Senny had to make a big save, and then the stadium changed a little bit for 5 minutes or so. But it was a big save from Senny, so that doesn't get lost in the game for us.
The interesting thing for me there was Mogger, right at the very end. He said, he talked about the referee, but then he said, we got it wrong in the second half. So I Mogga's a great guy. He knows the game inside out. He's been there so long, So a bit of honesty creeping in there, saying that they didn't do what they expected to have done in the second half.
I think it's good to see as well, because as I said, right off the get go, it'd be a massive disservice to Borough to take away that second half performance purely on them being down to 10 men, because Middlesbrough were absolutely ruthless. We put the pedal to the metal. We came out and we were passing and we were flowing, and I honestly think against 11 men we still would have just been absolutely banging them goals in, because we were moving the ball around better than I've ever seen. We were free flowing. We seemed to have taken the shackles off or something, where the lads just seemed to be moving the ball around so well, and out to the left-hand side with Engel as well. Doesn't he seem a man, different man completely from what we saw in the first early games? So, yeah, look, I think it's refreshing for Mogga to see that, and he gives credit to Middlesbrough and credit where credit's due. Mogga obviously feels like he got it wrong in the second half against 10 men, and we saw, at the same time, Tottenham going down to 10 men but still being able to get the job done. So, you can change. Maybe he should have played more defensively, whatever it may be, but bygones be bygones, and Middlesbrough were able to get on top of them.
Steve, I want you to make a Mackem very happy this morning.
Okay, go on.
Because we had the Cat Girls, the Cat radio station. For those who are joining us fairly recently, there's 3 separate radio stations here. We've got the Red, which is for Teesside, the Cat, which is for Wearside, and the Toon, which is for Tyneside. But we all come together on this show, and the 3 legends on a Friday night, and at key times we come together to have that bit of rivalry and banter on air. So the Cat this weekend had the Cat Girls out, a couple of promotion girls out, and the idea was, Sunderland fans, when you see them, you go and get a selfie take and post it on socials and tag us in, and we're going to pull one of those who a name out of the hat right now. And whoever's name comes out of the hat will give £100 to. So at least it's a little bit of a brighter start to the week after the dreadful weekend from a football perspective. So I have a bag of names here, and I'm just rustling my fingers through them, Steve. You're going to shout stop, and when you shout stop, the first one I pick out is the winner, right? So it's up to you, mate. A mag helping a Mackem. We love it.
Here we go.
Go on, mate.
Drum roll, right? Yeah. Drum roll, right? Stop! Good
man. Oh, wait, mate, I'm getting cramp.
I said stop.
Oh, did you? Right, got one. It is Andrew Gray. Andrew Gray. We will be getting in touch with you via social media. Well done, mate. Like the photograph.
Congrats, Andrew.
Yeah, congrats, Andrew. You're £100 better off courtesy of the Cat. So there you go. At least there's a brighter start for one Sunderland fan this morning. Right, fellas. So that's Borough Sunderland. Also Newcastle playing as well. Decent point, Steve. You were saying you're happy with it. You're happy with the season so far where it is, but you're in 8th and not 4th, mate. I mean, there is a bit of a deficit on where you finished last year.
Yeah, but we're only a third of the way into the season. It's it's early days. Like I said, you don't want to be at the front leading and end up coming up short. So we're in a good position, and like I said, the squad has been tested already this season. The squad rotation and the players coming in are doing a great job. Jamal Lascelles coming in against Manchester City and PSG and getting 2 wins on the board. So from my perspective, we're in a good position. Players to come back in, Anthony Gordon coming back in from suspension, and of course having Joe Willock, will be like a new player at the back end of October, start of November. Emil Kraft, as I mentioned, playing again in the under 21s and completing another game. Which it's all positive news. Joe Linton had a little niggle. Callum Wilson's had a little niggle. Only played 4 or 5 minutes yesterday, Callum Wilson. So, gentle rehabilitation back in, but still scoring goals. 2 goals at West Ham, who won a European trophy last season, and could have won it if the post had been a bit kinder to us. So it's great at the moment. It's a good time to be a Newcastle fan. There's nothing to moan about. If the only thing that people are going to moan about is is ticketing issues and stuff like that, then you're in a good you're in a good place. Or the fact that people can't get in because they're not being successful in the ballot, you're in a good place. So yeah, as a Newcastle fan, it's all very positive at the moment, and long may it continue. It's another exciting season unfolding in front of us. That's what is happening. I think I think we've yet to hit that stumble. We're yet to hit that brick in the road, and we're putting a run together. The one thing Eddie Howe's teams have been good at doing since Eddie Howe took the management job is putting runs together. He did it in the Great Escape when Newcastle United stayed up. He did it again last season, and whenever you do hit that little bump in the road, wherever you do drop points or you get knocked out of a cup, it's how you start the next game, and it's how you find yourself. Sunderland will find that next game. You've got to start again. You've got to dust yourself off and move on, and that is exactly what Newcastle United have done, and it's hitting those runs, and all good teams do it. People are saying Manchester City are useless now. They're not going to win the league, and I saw an absolute meltdown of fans last night.
They're garbage. They're
Manchester City will put a run together, as they always do, and they will be there or thereabouts. You can guarantee it. Arsenal celebrating yesterday as if they'd won the league. Pep Guardiola's face said it all yesterday. You win nothing by winning that game. You win nothing by winning that game. And yeah, he won't be happy. Yes, he's been missing some key players. Those players will be back, and Manchester City will be back. And that's the kind of mentality that good teams have. Manchester United, everybody thought they were going to lose again. Would have been their worst Premier League start at Old Trafford ever. They did what everybody expects them to do. Discovered their Fergie time. 2 goals from McTominay in the last couple of minutes. They put that they're good at that. That's what good teams do. And Newcastle United, whether other teams in the North East like it or not, or whether other teams in the Premiership like it or not, are a good team now, and that is what that is what I've taken from this first couple of months of the season. I'm very happy, and we've got January to look forward to. We've got another transfer window opening up. Newcastle have pulled in some major investment over the last few months since the last transfer window closed, namely the Adidas deal, but we've pulled in other commercial sponsors. Newcastle's got money to spend again, boys, and
can they
will
spend
do
it though? Haven't you already spent in terms of financial fair play? No,
you're into January. It goes against your commercial revenue. So the commercial revenue that Newcastle have brought in allows Newcastle to spend again in January. So there will be more investment. There will be more young players coming to Newcastle. There will be another, probably, a star player who will come in January. It won't be as big as the summer transfer window, which we're expecting to be the biggest since these owners took over. But January there will probably be another acquisition. Eddie Howe is always looking to build, always looking to improve, and always looking to bring in players which are going to do the business. And it'll be interesting. Ivan Toney, heavily linked with Newcastle. Newcastle.
Yeah, very true.
Newcastle saying they want a forward in. £60 million for Ivan Toney. I say it is a snip for somebody who's a regular goal scorer in the Premier League. Would he come back to Newcastle? Who knows? But it's exciting times for Newcastle fans. You've just got to enjoy the process. Enjoy it. Don't get too carried away in the moans and groans. We're going to have bumps in the road, but not as many as we've had in previous years. That's for certain. And yeah, it's exciting time to be black and white. There's no doubt about it, and you've just got to enjoy it.
We've had our legs slapped. We've had our wrists slapped, fellas.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. How Smoggy came the message. This is Carl in South Shields. How Smoggy. What about the Sunderland view? Yeah, we did promise, didn't we, Ted? And we forgot to put it in.
We did. Chuck in Ted.
If we must.
Morning, everybody. Yeah, I guess Rye and the Borough fans will be very happy to get a big win against the biggest club in the division. I suppose the big talk among the Sunderland fans was the referee. For me, no issue with the sending off whatsoever. I know it's a weak reason to be sent off in terms of dissent, but players know the rules now, and a lot of people are unhappy, quite rightly so, with Dan Neil. While others are arguing his dissent shouldn't have warranted a second yellow and therefore a red card, but it did though, and that's what changed the game, I guess. Referee was an absolute shambles though. Coburn for Borough committed more dives in 90 minutes than Tom Daly managed in his whole career. Picked up a yellow card for trying to stick the nut on Dan Ballard as well.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Greenwood also decided to dramatically throw himself to the floor a few times with all the drama of Rita Hayworth. That being said, Massive off day for Sunderland. The likes of Jack Clark and Pat Roberts just didn't get the opportunity to perform. I think before the sending off, Borough, they pretty much did a Cardiff. Sunderland fans will know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
They pretty much set up not to get beat. But as soon as the sending off obviously happened, that changed the game. And the second half was all them, obviously. International break now. I think that comes at a good time for Sunderland with a massive injury list that we've got. The likes of Ekwa. You've got Mayenda to come into the squad as well. Obviously still missing Pritchard, Dak. Sirkin as well, you can throw into that as well. So there's a lot of the first teamers that are missing from that. International break comes at a great time. Probably not the right time for Middlesbrough, to be honest, after their 4 games on the bounce. But yeah, hopefully that's going to be catastrophic for them, but Sunderland get back to winning ways. Anyway, catch you later, lads. Bye-bye.
Really looking forward to him being with us full time at the end of the month.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, he's a top lad.
Good.
Yeah, okay.
But there you go. There's your Sunderland view, and I completely agree with most of what he said. The only thing I don't agree with is Middlesbrough going into Park the Bus. I just don't think Sunderland have watched Middlesbrough play enough to say that was the parking the bus, because we were literally just playing possession ball. That's what we do. That's how we play it, and that's how Carrick lines us up. So that's the only thing. But I completely and look, the only thing I just keep on harping on, and I don't want to I agree, Sunderland, you'll feel hard done by. If I was a Middlesbrough fan, I'd feel hard done by. Dan Neil red card, yes, it changed the game, but it's a disservice to take away from that second half performance of what Middlesbrough were able to put out there. It was incredible from our lads.
Yeah, quick message on WhatsApp from Paul in the Borough. He's saying, "How is Rye? Is Rye a different Rye? Because you've been very restrained today."
Well, I was pretty up and about, but it's a radio show. It can't just be all about me singing, being a loudmouth. We gotta hear about some magpie team. We gotta hear about how bad we felt for Sunderland.
That's more like
you know what I mean?
Exeter City.
We gotta sit there and listen to we've got to talk about Hartlepool and some other teams as well. So. Look, I apologise that I can't be just, but don't you worry. We'll be, when I'll jump on with Daz in the next hour and we'll just make it a full Middlesbrough show.
Yeah, we don't want to propose a marriage to me and to other people on here. Keep that for your own channel.
Yeah. Agony ants. We'll turn them into an agony ant.
What a win. My goodness.
Okay, fellas. I think you've got a long list of other stuff we haven't even touched yet.
Yeah, as usual.
We certainly did.
Yeah. We've got to talk a little bit about Borough and Pools. It was a bit of a mixed bag for the boys in the National League at the weekend, and yeah, I mean, from my perspective, that's starting to really become an interesting league now. I mean, Chesterfield, like we mentioned, still out on top. Gateshead in 6th place. Hartlepool now in 7th, only 3 points behind them. But Gateshead lost at home to Altrincham. Hartlepool won at home to Eastleigh.
3-1. 3-1. Good performance by the Pool. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Nicky Featherstone getting man of the match as well after coming back on a short-term contract as well. So one of the heroes
both teams
coming
neck
back.
and neck, lads, aren't they? That's starting to warm up nicely after 15 15 games played already.
Mind you, it was a cracking battle for both, because Altrincham were neck and neck with Gateshead, Eastleigh were neck and neck with Pools. There's only a handful of points separated all 4 clubs going into those games at the weekend. So there were decent battles.
Incredible.
Yeah, so good to see Pools winning 3-1 anyway, getting some goals after 3 successive defeats?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 3 successive defeats, and then they've pulled one back, which is good for John Askey and his men. But we're seeing the same thing as well. We're seeing the Championship. We're seeing Chesterfield and Barnet just pull away in that league. Chesterfield now obviously 5 wins on the bounce, and Barnet also 4 on the bounce now. So 38, 35 points. The next closest is in Solihull. So Solihull, is it? Apologize.
Solihull,
I love your pronunciations. Barnet.
I know. What is it? Is it
Barnet?
Barnet. That's Barnet.
It's Barnet. Like that stuff on top of your head. It's a Barnet, mate. Don't get your Barnet cut. Do you know what though?
It's the Aussie ling.
Yeah,
it's the Aussie lingo.
We'll put up with it, mate. Because we love you. We'll put up with you. Gateshead's goal scoring. I didn't realise how powerful they've been in front of goal, Steve. Because they lost 2-0, but they still. I mean, they had the best goal difference in the league going into the weekend.
Yeah, they're not a bad team. And it's been a work in progress over there over the last few years. And they haven't got the Hartlepool are the same. They haven't got the finances that some of these other clubs have got. They don't get the attendances that some of these other clubs can get as well. A lot of big clubs in that division, as we've already mentioned. But it's a work in progress. And I think both Gateshead and Hartlepool would both be happy if they could get to the playoffs. Give themselves an outside chance of getting into that playoff final. And getting some much needed revenue, and you never know, getting promoted would be a possibility. But it's a hell of a season. As I say, 15 games already played in that division so far, and lots more to come as well. Got to give South Shields a mention as well. Yeah. They played out in a 0-0 draw against Hereford. There's another big name, Hereford, the conquerors of Newcastle in the FA Cup back in the 70s with the invasion of the Parkers. But yeah, there's some huge.
Do we mention the FA Cup?
Yes, that's what I mentioned. Yeah, that's the invasion of the Parkers. That's what I'm saying. The invasion of the Parkers in the 1970s.
Right, the invasion of the Parkers. I now get it. Sorry, mate. I was a bit slow this morning.
You've got to watch the footage back, and when Newcastle got beaten, Ronnie Radford scored the goal. There was basically an invasion by Hereford fans onto the pitch, onto this muddy, clotty pitch, and there was all of the kids had Parker coats on with these hoods on. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, well done to Shields. 100% home record came to an end. For the Mariners, but it was a tight encounter down there, and look, South Shields, out of all of our non-league teams, have got the bit between their teeth, haven't they? They really seem as if they're going places, and I mean their attendance as well, 2,351. For a game down at South Shields, fantastic attendance, and watch their progress with interest. I think they're really making waves, South Shields.
Well, there's a couple more, isn't there? Because Spenny's above South Shields in the table. Spenny is second, South Shields are third, and both of them are on a decent run. I think it's 3 unbeaten for South Shields, but for Spenny it's 5 unbeaten, 3 straight wins. So they're in hellish form at the moment. So. And Blythe Spartans, a team I love. I love Blythe because I used to referee them in the Unibond League when I was climbing the ranks, and I always used to have a great time at Croft Park. The abuse they used to give me, the fans, was fantastic. Being a Smoggie, it was great. But they drew 0-0, and Spenny won 3-0 over Rushall. Darlow, they're bottom of the table of National League North. They went down. I mean, it's all right. They went to Tamworth, who are top of the table at the moment and flying. They got done for. So, I'd like to see Darlow turn it round as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
There's
100%.
some big teams down there, and we definitely need. We need a bit more Northeast present in the upper leagues. I'd love to see one in. We were talking about it the other week on the radio. We're not seeing any in the League Twos and League Ones. So. It'd be good to see, obviously, Hartlepools and the likes, and they seem to be, doing everything right. We see a lot of teams especially in that Vanarama League, struggling financially. So, going into some, we saw Scunthorpe United only just saved the other day, actually. So, their fans came in and chipped in and saved their club. So we're still seeing, these financial situations of clubs, of potentially losing their clubs, and we don't want to see that. And when you're down in those bottom leagues, it's even harder to create revenue and stuff like that. So when they get an FA Cup run, when they get a Carabao Cup run, and they get the we got Exeter obviously into Middlesbrough, and you want to see them, because the fans will happily pay extra pricing for those games, because it helps those those littler clubs with more income, unlike Man United, who just jack it up to £39.
Yeah, don't we know it?
Good mention.
Yeah.
Talking about revenue.
We got some topics though, Steve. We got some topics, Steve.
Yeah, topics.
Wow, but we've got some ads first, haven't we?
We have indeed. Talking about revenue, we better earn some. We'll be right back on the North East Footy Breakfast.
Catherine was turned down by 2 other solicitors before Ather & Co took on her case.
My husband was at work, tripped over, fractured his knee. He developed pulmonary embolism and died. That left me a widow with 3 young daughters. Devastating. Charles Ather took my husband's work to court, got them to admit liability. They were very diligent, very caring.
Choose the one you know, Ather & Co.
So glad that I went to Ather's.
Now then, do you do sales? Do you fancy a great career challenge? Well, the Red, the Cat and the Toon has a full-time vacancy for a special sales exec. Not only will you be responsible for generating the vital revenue needed to see the Northeast's newest radio business grow, but you'll grow too. Show us you can do the business and you'll soon become Group Sales Director. Our stations are flying. We have the three legends back on air. Then there's the one that most are talking about, the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. And there's more to come. Gumption and creativity count more to us than years. You may only have 2 or 3 years selling experience, but if you get what we're trying to achieve, you will be the right fit. You'll ideally be located in Tyneside or Wearside. This will be a hybrid working role. It's a full-time basic plus commission position. So come on, think you have what it takes? Then give us a shout. Email any of the 3 stations. That's hello@thetoonuk.com, hello@thecatuk.com, or hello@thereduk.com.
Steve and Rye, the Northeast Footy Breakfast.
The Cat, the Toon and the Red.
Yep, the boys are here, and just a reminder, Andrew Gray was the Sunderland fan, the lucky Sunderland fan who's £100 better off this morning, courtesy of...
Congrats, Andrew.
Well
done, Andrew.
Well done. Fellas, we mentioned it earlier, a bit of a refreshing sort of view at the Premier League top of the table, isn't it? Tottenham and Arsenal up there, no Man City, no Chelsea, no Liverpool. Steve, you wanted to pick up on Tottenham?
Under an Aussie as well.
Yeah, under an Aussie as well. I mean, I thought this guy was going to struggle. I really did as a Premier League manager, but he has come in and he has hit the ground running. And they had a tough game at the weekend. I mean, Luton Town, obviously newly promoted, struggling in the division. Potential banana skin for anybody who goes to Kenilworth Road this season. Found themselves down to 10 men with Basuma getting sent off, but they found the resilience to win 1-0 and Mickey van der Ven got the goal, sent them, top of the league, albeit briefly, that's what they thought anyway, because Arsenal and Man City didn't go the way that everybody predicted. Arsenal running out 1-0 winners against Manchester City yesterday meant that Spurs stayed on top of the league going into the international break on goal difference. So we've got a North London top 2, Spurs and Arsenal.
Easy.
So, look, this is the best league start since 1960. I think they won the league in 62. I mean, are they genuine title contenders, right? Do you think? I've got to say, I think they are. And this is what I'm saying. I mean, this isn't the top 6 anymore. This isn't the safe 6 that everyone has waxed lyrical about for years. You've got Spurs, you've got Arsenal, you've got Man City, you've got Liverpool, you've got Villa, you've got Brighton, you've got West Ham, and you've got Newcastle in that top 8. Man United are 10th. Chelsea are 11th, and like I said to you, there was this paper yesterday suggesting that who could win the league, and they completely missed out Brighton, West Ham, and Newcastle. They included Villa in it because they're 5th. Chelsea and Man United 10th and 11th. But I think Spurs have got Spurs have got a chance. They've certainly got a chance this year. They could really put a spoke in the works of Man City. And Man City at the moment aren't playing well, but they're only 2 points off the top. They've only lost against Newcastle, Wolves, and Arsenal. Every team has a blip. This is Man City's blip. They'll put a run together. Arsenal always seem to be the bridesmaids, never the bride. They always seem to peak too early. But yeah, I think Spurs in the way that Ange manages might just get Spurs at that table this year.
I mean, he won it all with Celtic, didn't he? And that I know the Scottish League, we talk about it, and there's jokes made and stuff like that, but it takes a good manager to go into Celtic and win it all, and that's what Ange has done. He's been a coach for a very long time. A lot of people probably think he's new to the scene, but in Australia, and he was a part of the national squad set up for a long time. He's been coaching here in Australia. He did some rounds over in Asia as well in some of the clubs there, and then obviously finding himself some success and I guess notoriety through Celtic. But Ange is a winning manager. The way he sets his teams up, the way he plays, fast attacking, flowing, and it just seems to be suiting Tottenham's boys to a T. And Ange won't slow down. Ange won't take the pedal off. Ange won't want a blip. And he doesn't let he didn't let Celtic take a blip. Otherwise, the likes of Rangers and all that would have caught them during that treble. So Tottenham are a real force this season, and under Ange, it's great to see an Aussie manager, much like an Aussie referee in the championship, just doing so well. That's right, I said it, Sunderland fans.
Dave, do you think they could be title contenders?
No, I don't. Had they have had Harry Kane still in the ranks, maybe, because there's more goals there. I think it's early season. It's great to see it. Yeah, absolutely, it's great to see it, because it is a bit of a breath of fresh air. It's like seeing Brighton up there. It's just something different, on Villa. And I like that. But will they still be there in 20 games' time? Will they still be there in another 30 games' time as you come to the end of the season? I don't think they will. They'll be up there. They'll be challenging for European spots. But I think this is a bit of good early season form that sees them up there. And I'm pleased for Ange. It is good to see an Aussie come in and prove himself on the biggest stage in club football. Absolutely, it is. But no, look. City have got too much firepower. I know they've lost 2 on the belt, which is a crisis for Man City fans, but they'll get themselves back to winning ways, and I still think they're too strong for everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. Man City will be there or thereabouts, but it just adds a little bit of flavour.
It does. It's great.
And Spurs don't have the worry of they don't have the worry of European football. They're in Newcastle United's shoes, like last year. Newcastle didn't have the distraction of that. They had the distraction of the Carabao Cup, but once they were out of that, and once they're out of the FA Cup, that was it was just all focused on the league. So Spurs are going to have that as well. Just a line coming through from Lee Ryder at the Chronicle this morning as well, that Alexander Isak, of course, came off yesterday. He signalled to the bench that he needed to come off, and Callum Wilson went on. They didn't really want to put Callum Wilson on. Eddie Howe saying that he wasn't fit enough to start and was only on the bench as a precaution, really. But he came on for the last 8-9 minutes of the game. And in his post-match press conference, he said that he'd hoped that he would be okay for Crystal Palace, but there was a little bit of a concern. And of course, Isak has had a recurring knee injury, so let's hope he's gone to report for duty with his international team. Let's hope he gets sent straight back so he can just rest up and doesn't get used for Sweden. Let's hope that he doesn't play in these international games, because the more rest for Alexander Isak, the better.
There's always a concern, isn't it, with the international break, seeing your boys go off, and obviously if you're in a right run of form, obviously we've got Middlesbrough with a few players, obviously the Aussies, and Northern Ireland with Paddy McNair. It's always a worry, isn't it, that you see some of these boys go off and get injured for their international. We've been like treading on eggshells trying to keep the squad together and trying to keep the squad fit. And maybe, that was the likes of Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson we saw come back on yesterday but wasn't selected for England. Maybe there was something there when Newcastle said, look, we've just got him back to fitness, don't touch him, sort of thing. So you just never know. But you hope there is some, some common sense when it comes to looking after the boys and the coaching staff at the international, that, these boys are playing so much football, so much back-to-back, football, that they need to be taken care of. And sometimes, it's one game too many for some of them. So.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree, mate, 100%. And a couple of other things we wanted to talk about. I know we're going to be running out of time today, but Jose Mourinho looks like he's close to the sack at Roma. I haven't seen any reports. I haven't seen any reports to suggest that he's out of a job yet. Is he yesterday's man now, Rye? I mean, what do you think's gone wrong with him? I mean, lots of talk of him potentially heading to Saudi.
Yeah, look, I think it's definitely one of those things, isn't it, with Jose? And it seems to be when he gets his time's up, he seems to get a bit more vocal, a bit more irrational with his press conferences and the things that he says. And I think he's now starting to tread on eggshells. He's starting to put a few Roma fans, and especially probably the back staff as well, off is Jose. So yeah, look, I think he's he's on a limited he's on time running out for Jose for sure.
He is, yeah. It seems to be a lot of moves and not a lot of success in the last 10 years for him, doesn't it? I mean, it's not seemingly working out for him at the moment. Certainly at Roma. One man I'm sure who's taken care of Jose Mourinho and had to manage him in his time in the English Premier League is Jeff Winter, our Premier League referee in the North East. And Jeff joins us this morning. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning, Dave.
Jose, any tales about you having to look after him?
No, very fortunately, he came to the Premier League at the beginning of the season after I retired.
Oh, right, okay.
Otherwise, I feel sure there would be plenty of tails, plenty of touchline bans.
Yeah,
no doubts about that.
Unfortunately, the present-day referees seem as if they'll let them get away with far too much. So, well, that's another subject.
Well, you've dovetailed perfectly into obviously what the big talking point's been across the Northeast on the Footy Breaky Show this morning, which is obviously Jared Gillett and his performance, the red card at Sunderland, that kind of thing. I mean, can you give us any input into that from a ref? I know you've not been active for a while, but your thoughts, input on that?
Well, I'm probably the last person you want to talk to on refereeing matters because this game that we're watching nowadays is something totally different to the one I was involved with. I mean, people ask me at games, was that a handball? And I say, I don't know what a handball is. So, I mean, things have changed that much. But onto the subject, I wouldn't discuss as much the performance. It all seems to key around one decision, which I've got to be honest, left me scratching my head because, if the Sunderland player has used foul and abusive language and it's that bad, it's a straight red card. It's certainly not a second yellow. Yeah. A second yellow comes for dissent. Now, we presume. What we don't know, and I'm not trying to defend the referee, but what we don't know is whether he's had a constant battle with the referee and the referee's more or less told him that's your last warning. And that's the only way I can justify it, because if you're going to send a player off in a game of football, you've got to be able to sell it. You don't want it to be a daft one for dissent, something that I'd like to think in those circumstances, with the choice language that we could use in our day when we were refereeing, I'd have told him in no uncertain terms that was it. But to send someone off for dissent, as a second yellow card, the laws of the game will back up the referee, but I think you lose a little bit of credibility. You don't want to be. You often hear the commentators passing comment about the decision's got to be able to be sold. Now, if he's took a Borough player out at the knee, then nobody's going to complain. It's his second yellow. Why did he do it? But for dissent, it just didn't sit easy with me. And, Dave, I'm a Borough fan, so coming from me, that probably adds a little bit more clout to the argument. It was a strange one. I don't think anyone in the ground, anyone watching on TV saw that one coming.
Yeah, I know you're a big Borough fan, Jeff, so for you to be saying you're scratching your head, there you go. I think that answers most of the points that the Sunderland fans have been throwing at us this morning. But yeah, I mean, it's managing the game, isn't it? I mean, a big part of the art of refereeing is keeping control of those 22 players on the field, is managing the game and to throw.
It used to be, Dave. It used to be.
It's
supposed to be, and it certainly used to be. I mean, man management, the better referees managed the game, and they spoke to players, as I say. Now that they're wired up, they've got to be so careful what they're saying. I think modern day players, are totally different to the players in my day. It was the banter, it was the crack, the man management that kept control of the game. Now it just seems to be card, and with the advent of VAR, we're just left scratching our heads.
Oh, we've got to go there.
That's what I was going to bring up with you, Jeff. It is right here, the Borough fan. It's great to have you on the show, and thank you for joining us. I wanted to get your thoughts on the VAR and how you're seeing it going on. It's been the news that we've been talking about here on the radio. Most of this year has been dominated by VAR headlines. I guess your thoughts on the VAR and how you see it, playing out, but also should it just be scrapped?
I don't think it's ever going to be scrapped because it works everywhere else. It just seems to be in England and recently also since it was introduced in Scotland that they just don't seem to be managing it. They don't seem to be doing it right. We're always going to have at every level of football people disagreeing with refereeing decisions, and that's brought about mostly because of which team you're supporting. fans are not interested in what's right and wrong. They're just interested in every decision going their team's way. But when you see in the game stopped, I mean, if you Borough fans and Sunderland fans won't have that much experience of VAR other than the television. No. But when you're in a ground and you have this sort of pregnant pause where everybody stood around, including, most importantly, the players. You know, they've trained all week. They've put the ball in the back of the net. They think it's a goal, and they can't even celebrate because you're waiting. And then, you know, we've had too many examples of VAR getting it wrong. You know, I think the management of the game that Dave mentioned earlier, a lot of things have gone. We've got also, I know it's not really linked to the question you asked me about VAR, but we've got this ridiculous situation where we're playing 8, 9, 10, 11 minutes. Why are we playing 8, 9, 10, 11 minutes? We're playing it because of weak refereeing. If the referees clamped down on goalkeepers' time wasting, started making players take throw-ins from the correct place, warning them, cautioning them, and then if they're daft enough, sending them off, then we wouldn't be playing 8, 9, 10, 11 players, which, you know, has another effect. There's more and more players getting injured because of fatigue. So, you know, this has happened with the advent of VAR and with a worsening of standards over the last sort of 10, 15 years. And Howard Webb's got one hell of a job on his hands to completely to reverse the malaise that's been brought in under the previous management.
Keith, would you pause? I'm Jeff. Sorry, would you pause VAR now? Would you pause it and retrain the referees? Because you know that Liverpool Spurs game has been talked about on constant news channels, radio shows like this. That's the one that everyone points to. But would you just pause it now and say, look, this isn't going to get any better. We need to retrain the officials. We need to retrain the referees and then start again.
I think there's a lot of things that could happen. When what we're talking about is, and I've got to point the finger at the media and the world we now live in, especially not necessarily your type of media, but social media, because everybody's an expert on everything now. And, you know, calling for games to be replayed. The game is about human error. And, you know, you're seeing players miss open goals, goalkeepers faffing about at the back and giving goals away. There's always going to be mistakes in football. It's just now VAR is really highlighting it. And it's a pressure pot situation where somebody's looking at a TV screen. I don't even know how VAR works, because when there's 6 or 8 games, I know there isn't that many all kicking off at the same time on a Saturday afternoon. But how many people are looking at how many games and how many TV screens? I don't know how that works. But as I go back to what I said earlier, it seems to work in Europe. It seems to work in other leagues. It's worked in World Cups. Why is it just over here? We've got people who are either badly trained or ill-equipped for the job, because being a referee is one thing. Looking at a TV screen and watching slow motion replays and the technology that goes with it is clearly something else. Just because you've been a good referee doesn't necessarily mean to say, you know, you're good in front of the TV screen. And the other thing that seems so grossly unfair is everything is slowed down. And when you see an incident in slow motion, 99 times out of 100, it looks a damn sight worse than what it does in real time. So, do they stop it? I'd like to go back to what I was saying 20 years ago. Be careful what you wish for, because it was the pundits on TV that are going, managers are losing their jobs because of referees making mistakes, which was rubbish in my humble opinion, because in the other 89 and a half minutes of the game, players were making mistakes, managers were making mistakes. The referee was the easy option. But the game went on and we didn't have the aggro and the problems. We spoke less about referees when the referee was on his own on the pitch making decisions than we're doing now over VAR. So the thing that was supposed to cure the supposed ills in the game clearly is not working. But in a perfect world, I'd say get rid of it, but it's not going to happen. They've invested too much money. I'm afraid it's here to stay, and well, it keeps people like your good selves in work, because you've always got you've always got something to discuss. But I mean, I'm nothing at all to do with refereeing now, thankfully. But if I was putting my old refereeing hat on, I do have a certain degree of sympathy, because they're out there, they look like rabbits in the headlights, and they've stopped making decisions. And when you look at other sports, I mean, watching the rugby league, the playoff semi-finals on television at the weekend, every single try, some of the most clear-cut ones, the referee calls for the video review. Because why would you make a decision when television is going to make a fool out of you? So you just stand there, almost scratch your head and say, I'm not sure, will you check it, please? Well, we're one step away. I've seen it. I've been at the Riverside to watch Durham play in the 2020. And even with my dodgy eyesight from 60 yards away, you can see somebody's been run out. But it's all part of the drama. Well, it might work in cricket. It might work in slow motion in games like tennis. But it doesn't work in football. It's taking away the emotion for everybody. And as I say, sometimes I remember a game in the Northeast a few years ago when my old colleague and friend Martin Atkinson was refereeing, and the game was stopped for VAR to look at something. And the camera pans in on Martin's face, and he's looking. I can't use the words that went through my mind, but he's like, what the is going on here? And, you know, it's a mess brought about by the previous leadership and regime and the new one. I mean, Howard Webb is a good friend of mine, a former roommate of mine. If anybody can sort it out, he can. But at the end of the day, the clubs will get their way, and if the clubs are not happy with things, they'll make that much noise. The referees will have to change it.
Jeff, brilliant. Appreciate your time this morning, mate. Burn it at the stake, I think, is the best summary we've come up with this week. At half time, so it's entertaining.
I've got the matches.
Yeah, bring the petrol as well, mate. All right, brilliant. Jeff Winter, really appreciate your time. Former Premier League referee, and as he says, he's not connected with football now, so he can speak his mind and tell us what he thinks. Fellas, we're out of time. We're done and dusted. It's on to tomorrow.
What a show. Yeah, big show coming up, big week coming up, international break, so we've got a lot to talk about, and we seem to keep running out of time, but yeah, great show.
Cracking. Okay, fellas, bit of music, then the news, then Daz is here across the northeast with his mid-mornings and all his nonsense. Catch you tomorrow.
Steve and Rye, the Northeast Footy Breakfast.
Right across the northeast, the red, the cat and the two.